Did you know Elvis Presley once walked into a recording session unannounced, triggering an impromptu jam session with 3 other guys who would become music giants? Or that he shared a TV stage with Frank Sinatra, trading songs in a moment, watched by millions. And picture this: Elvis and another powerhouse singer, known for his electrifying stage presence, became pals in Las Vegas, even swapping stories about martial arts. There was also a movie where the chemistry between Elvis and his co-star was so intense, it practically leaped off the screen and onto the soundtrack recordings. Plus, imagine the king of rock and roll playfully competing for the spotlight at a piano with a rockabilly wild man nicknamed the Killer. Number 5. When the King Met the Killer at Sun Studio. It was December 4th, 1956, a Tuesday. Down at 706 Union Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee, the legendary Sun Studio was buzzing, but maybe not in the way owner Sam Phillips entirely expected. Carl Perkins, already a star thanks to his massive hit, Blue Suede Shoes, was in the studio trying to lay down some new tracks. He had his band with him, including his brothers Jay and Clayton, and drummer W.S. Fluke Holland. A new kid was playing piano on the session, someone Sam Phillips had recently signed, a fiery young talent from Louisiana named Jerry Lee Lewis. The session for Perkins was reportedly a bit sluggish. They were working on songs like Matchbox. Then, sometime in the afternoon, the studio door opened. In walked Elvis Presley. Now, Elvis wasn't a Sun artist anymore. He had rocketed to superstardom after Sam Phillips sold his contract to RCA Victor the previous year for a then unheard-of sum of $35,000, plus $5,000 in back royalties owed to Elvis. Elvis was, by this point, the biggest name in entertainment, period. He was in Memphis on a break and decided to drop by his old stomping grounds, accompanied by a dancer he was dating at the time, Marilyn Evans. What happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't a scheduled recording session. Elvis listened to Perkins' playback, liked what he heard, and then just naturally drifted over to the piano. Jerry Lee Lewis, never one to shy away from the spotlight or a keyboard, was right there with him. What unfolded was less of a formal collaboration and more of an impromptu jam session, a fly-on-the-wall moment capturing raw musical energy. Elvis started playing and singing songs he knew, often leaning towards gospel tunes he grew up with. Jerry Lee Lewis, with his flashy, energetic piano style, was eager to join in, sometimes complimenting Elvis, sometimes trying to outshine him with dazzling piano runs. You could hear the dynamic on the tapes that were later released, a friendly, slightly competitive energy, especially between Elvis and Jerry Lee. Elvis, the established king, and Jerry Lee, the ambitious newcomer, circling each other musically. They ran through dozens of songs, snippets of gospel hymns like Peace in the Valley, Down by the Riverside, and Just a Little Talk with Jesus. They touched on country standards and poked at rock and roll. Elvis would start a line, Jerry Lee might take over, or they'd harmonize. Carl Perkins, whose session it technically still was, joined in on guitar and vocals, his distinctive rockabilly licks weaving through the piano chords. His song Matchbox was revisited. The atmosphere, according to those who were there, was relaxed and fun. It was a bunch of young musicians, bonded by their shared roots in Southern music and their connection to Sam Phillips and Sun Studio, just hanging out and playing the music they loved. Elvis seemed to be enjoying the chance to sing gospel music, something he wasn't always able to focus on in his RCA pop star career. Jerry Lee Lewis was clearly reveling in playing alongside the biggest star in the world, matching him lick for lick on the piano. Sam Phillips, recognizing that something special was happening, had the foresight to tell engineer Jack Clement to keep the tapes rolling. "I think I'd be remiss if I didn't record this," Phillips reportedly said, or something to that effect. He also made a quick phone call to the local newspaper, the Memphis Press Scimitar. Bob Johnson, the paper's entertainment editor, came down with a photographer. Johnson wrote an article that appeared the next day titled "$1 Million Quartet," sensing the incredible combined value and talent in that room. The photographer snapped the iconic picture. Elvis, seated at the piano, Jerry Lee Lewis standing over him watching intently, Carl Perkins holding his guitar, and Johnny Cash standing behind them, leaning in. The interaction between Elvis and Jerry Lee is a key part of this legendary session. You hear Elvis's powerful voice, comfortable and leading on the gospel numbers, and Jerry Lee's higher tenor and boogie-woogie piano adding a different kind of energy. There are moments where Elvis pounds the keys, and moments where Jerry Lee takes over with a flourish. It wasn't a structured duet, but a spontaneous musical conversation between two immense talents, both masters of charisma and performance, captured almost by accident in the studio where Elvis first found his voice. They were playing for themselves, for each other, and for the sheer joy of the music. Number 4. When Elvis met the Tiger in Vegas. Las Vegas in the late 1960s and early 1970s was a realm ruled by larger-than-life entertainers. Two of the biggest titans holding court were Elvis Presley and Tom Jones. Elvis had made a triumphant return to live performing in 1969 at the International Hotel, later the Las Vegas Hilton, re-establishing himself as a stage powerhouse. Around the same time, Tom Jones, the Welsh singer with the booming voice and magnetic stage presence, known for hits like "It's Not Unusual," "Delilah," and "She's a Lady," was also a major Vegas headliner, often performing at Caesar's Palace. They weren't collaborators in the studio sense, recording duets or writing songs together. Their collaboration was one of mutual admiration, friendship, and shared space at the absolute pinnacle of live entertainment in the dazzling high-pressure atmosphere of the Las Vegas Strip. They were peers, arguably the two most dynamic and physically energetic male singers packing showrooms night after night. Elvis was a huge admirer of Tom Jones's vocal power and stage energy. He frequently attended Tom's late shows after finishing his own performances at the Hilton. Eyewitnesses and members of Elvis's entourage often describe Elvis sitting in the audience completely captivated by Tom's performance. He reportedly loved Tom's rendition of "Danny Boy" and his raw energy. Elvis even incorporated some of Tom Jones's hits into his own live shows, notably singing "Delilah" and a powerful version of "What's New Pussycat" during rehearsals or informal moments, and delivering a dramatic show-stopping version of "It's Not Unusual" in his concerts for a time. He also famously adopted Jones's hit "Polk Salad Annie," written by Tony Joe White, making it a staple of his own Vegas shows and live albums, complete with karate moves. Tom Jones, equally, was a massive Elvis fan. He had idolized Elvis since his youth in Wales. Finding himself headlining in the same city at the same time as his idol was a surreal experience for him. Tom often went to see Elvis's shows, marveling at the pandemonium Elvis created and his unique connection with the audience. He spoke glowingly of Elvis's charisma and the sheer scale of his performances. Their friendship developed during these Vegas years. They would visit each other backstage, hang out, and talk for hours. Accounts from both camps describe a warm camaraderie. They talked about music, performing, the pressures of fame, and apparently martial arts. Elvis was famously passionate about karate, eventually earning a high-level black belt. Tom Jones also studied martial arts. Stories abound, though sometimes varying in detail, about them playfully sparring or demonstrating moves for each other in dressing rooms. One popular anecdote recounted by Tom Jones and others involves Elvis demonstrating a karate move backstage and accidentally splitting his pants or injuring himself slightly, leading to shared laughter. They exchanged gifts. Elvis reportedly gave Tom a black pearl ring. Tom gave Elvis a Welsh Bible. Their dressing rooms were often filled with flowers sent from one to the other as opening night gifts or tokens of respect. Imagine the scene. Two global superstars, icons of male magnetism and vocal prowess, finding common ground and friendship amidst the glitz, glamour, and intense demands of being Las Vegas headliners. Their interaction wasn't about creating a specific song together, but about a relationship built on deep professional respect and genuine personal affection. Elvis saw in Tom Jones a fellow traveler, someone who understood the energy required to command a Vegas stage. Tom Jones saw in Elvis the original source, the man who had paved the way. Their collaboration was this unique Vegas bond, a shared reign where the king of rock and roll and the tiger from Wales acknowledged each other's power and became friends. They pushed each other, perhaps indirectly, by setting such high standards for live performance in the same town. Elvis would watch Tom and be energized. Tom would watch Elvis and be inspired. This mutual respect between two performers operating at the peak of their powers in the electric atmosphere of 1970s Las Vegas is a collaboration of spirit, if not of recorded sound. Number 3. When Elvis found his match in Ann-Margret. Sometimes, collaboration sparks from chemistry that's just undeniable. That's exactly what happened when Elvis Presley met Ann-Margret Olsen, the Swedish-American actress, singer, and dancer, for the filming of Viva Las Vegas in 1963. Elvis had made plenty of movies by this point, often featuring musical numbers, but the connection he forged with Ann-Margret was on a whole different level, both on and off screen, and it spilled directly into the music they created together for the film. When production began, Elvis was the undisputed king of rock and roll, though his movie career was seen by some critics as becoming formulaic. Ann-Margret was a rising star, already nominated for an Academy Award, and known for her vibrant energy and multi-talented skills. She could act, sing, and dance up a storm, earning her the nickname the female Elvis. Putting them together was a stroke of genius by the filmmakers, aiming to inject new energy into the Elvis movie formula. From their first meeting, reports indicated an instant spark. They were close in age. Elvis was 28, Ann-Margret was 22, shared a love for music, motorcycles, and had similar high-energy personalities. This connection translated powerfully onto the screen. Viva Las Vegas is often cited by fans and critics as one of Elvis's best and most enjoyable films, largely due to the palpable chemistry between the two leads. They seemed to genuinely enjoy performing together, pushing each other to deliver more dynamic performances. This chemistry was most evident in their musical collaborations for the film's soundtrack. Unlike many of Elvis's previous movie co-stars, who might have had a solo number or simply acted opposite him during his songs, Ann-Margret was a powerful musical force in her own right. This led to actual duets and shared musical numbers where they interacted directly as singers and dancers. The most famous example is "The Lady Loves Me." In the film, the characters, Lucky Jackson, played by Elvis, and Rusty Martin by Ann-Margret, sing this playful, flirtatious duet while poolside. The recording captures their back-and-forth teasing perfectly. It wasn't just Elvis singing and Ann-Margret reacting. It was a genuine musical partnership within the song. Their voices blended well, and the energy was infectious. You could hear the fun they were having. Another key musical moment is the song, "You're the Boss," which was recorded for the film but ultimately cut from the final print, though later released. It's another duet, featuring witty, competitive banter between Elvis and Ann-Margret, showing their matched charisma. Listening to these tracks, you get the sense of two equals performing together, striking sparks off each other musically. Even in songs where they didn't strictly sing duet parts, their interaction during the musical numbers in the film elevated the soundtrack. The title track, "Viva Las Vegas," is an Elvis solo, but Ann-Margret's dancing and presence alongside him in the movie sequence make it an unforgettable pairing. Similarly, her solo number appreciation is boosted by Elvis's character's reactions in the film. The recording sessions for the Viva Las Vegas soundtrack reportedly reflected this vibrant energy. Held in Hollywood at Radio Resorter's studio in July 1963, the sessions were said to be lively and full of the same chemistry seen on set. Elvis seemed more engaged and enthusiastic than he had been on some of his recent soundtracks. Having a co-star who could match him vocally and energetically seemed to inspire him. Their collaboration wasn't just about hitting the right notes. It was about the performance, the energy, the shared spotlight. Ann-Margret wasn't just a supporting player in Elvis's musical world. She was a collaborator who brought her own star power to the mix, resulting in some of the most dynamic musical moments of Elvis's film career. The Viva Las Vegas soundtrack, particularly the songs featuring both stars, remains a testament to this unique partnership. Rumors of a real-life romance swirled intensely during and after filming, and while the exact nature of their relationship is known only to them, the professional collaboration undeniably produced musical sparks that still resonate with fans today. They brought out a competitive, energetic best in each other, captured forever on Pymoig and celluloid. Number 2. When the King met the chairman of the board. Imagine this. Elvis Presley, the rebellious king of rock and roll, fresh out of the U.S. Army, standing side by side with Frank Sinatra, the smooth, established icon of American popular music, the chairman of the board himself. This wasn't just a casual meeting. It was a massively hyped television event broadcast across the nation, a symbolic welcoming back of one generation's idol by the standard bearer of another. Their collaboration took place on the Frank Sinatra Timex show, specifically the episode titled "Welcome Home Elvis," taped on March 26, 1960, and aired on May 12th. The context was huge. Elvis had been away from the public eye for 2 years, serving his military duty primarily in Germany. While he was gone, the music landscape had continued to shift. There was immense anticipation and speculation about his return. Would he still have the magic? Could he transition from the raw rock and roller of the 50s to a more mature performer for the 60s? His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, orchestrated this high-profile TV appearance as a major part of Elvis's comeback strategy. Frank Sinatra, at this point, was a living legend. He had conquered music, movies, and television. He represented an older, more sophisticated style of entertainment. Interestingly, Sinatra had famously made comments in the 1950s, criticizing rock and roll music, calling it the most brutal, ugly, degenerate, vicious form of expression, and seeming to take aim at performers like Elvis. So having Sinatra host Elvis's return was a significant gesture, perhaps signaling a truce or at least a mutual understanding of star power, likely brokered by the business-savvy Colonel Parker. Elvis was reportedly paid an astonishing $125,000 for his appearance, a record for a TV guest shot at the time. The show was taped at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, Florida. The atmosphere was electric. Sinatra's regular audience and Elvis's fervent fans were merged together. The highlight of the show, the moment everyone was waiting for, was the interaction between the two titans. Their collaboration wasn't a full-blown, deeply integrated duet, but rather a carefully staged and utterly charming exchange. Standing together on stage, looking remarkably comfortable with each other, despite their perceived differences in style, they traded vocals on each other's signature songs. Sinatra, suave in his tuxedo, sang a swinging, finger-snapping version of Elvis's "Love Me Tender." Elvis, looking sharp in his own tux, a departure from his 50s image, signaling his transition, crooned Sinatra's hit "Witchcraft," even adding a few subtle hip swivels that drew screams from the audience. Then they sang together, briefly blending their voices on parts of both songs. The performance was smooth, professional, and undeniably historic. It was a symbolic passing of the torch, or perhaps more accurately, a sharing of the summit. Two of the biggest stars on the planet, representing different eras and styles of American music, sharing a stage and, more importantly, showing mutual respect. Elvis also performed two of his own songs solo on the show, "Stuck on You," his first post-Army single which hit #1, and "Fame and Fortune." He looked confident and sounded great, reassuring fans that his voice and charisma were intact. The significance of this collaboration was immense. It presented Elvis to a wider, perhaps older audience, shooting his ability to handle different styles and project a more polished image after his Army stint. It demonstrated Sinatra's position as an elder statesman of entertainment, gracious enough to welcome back the younger star, who had revolutionized the industry. For the millions watching at home, it was a pop culture event, a confirmation that Elvis was back and that the music world was big enough for both the king and the chairman. Their interaction on stage wasn't spontaneous like the Dollar Quartet jam session, nor was it an integrated partnership like the duets with Ann-Margret. It was a meticulously planned television moment, but one executed with warmth and star power by both men. They played their parts perfectly, creating a unique collaboration that served as a bridge between musical generations and marked a pivotal moment in Elvis Presley's career relaunch. The sheer wattage of having Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley share a microphone even for just a few minutes cemented its place in television and music history. #1. When Elvis accidentally formed the Dollar Quartet. This is the stuff of music legend, a moment so serendipitous and star-studded, it sounds like fiction, but it actually happened. December 4th, 1956, Sung Studio, Memphis. We've touched on Elvis's interaction with Jerry Lee Lewis that day, but the full picture is even more staggering. This wasn't just Elvis and Jerry Lee. It was Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash, four future titans of American music, all gathered in one small studio making music together for a brief, unrepeatable moment in time. Let's reset the scene with all the players. Carl Perkins, riding high on blue suede shoes but looking for his next hit, was scheduled to record. His band included brothers Jay and Clayton, plus drummer W.S. Holland. Sam Phillips, the visionary founder of Sun Records who had discovered or nurtured all four of these artists, had brought in a relatively unknown but wildly talented piano player for Perkins' session, Jerry Lee Lewis. Elvis Presley, already the biggest star on the planet, having moved from Sun to RCA, dropped by the studio unexpectedly, just to visit his old mentor, Sam Phillips, and see what was going on. He arrived with his girlfriend, Marilyn Evans. Elvis listened to the playback of Perkins' new song, Matchbox. Then Johnny Cash, another Sun record star known for hits like I Walk the Line, also happened to be at the studio that day. Accounts differ slightly on why Cash was there. Some say he dropped by to listen to Perkins. Others say he was there to talk business with Sam Phillips, possibly about his contract. His exact level of participation in the singing has also been debated over the years. Cash himself later said he was there, but mostly listened, though his voice is thought by some to be audible on some of the lower harmony parts of the gospel songs. But his presence added another layer of legendary status to the gathering. With Elvis drawn to the piano and Jerry Lee Lewis already there, the impromptu jam session began. Carl Perkins naturally joined in on guitar and vocals. What ensued was a loose, joyful exploration of songs they all knew and loved, primarily gospel standards, but also dipping into country blues and early rock and roll. Engineer Jack Clement kept the tapes rolling at Sam Phillips' request. What those tapes captured is extraordinary. It's not a polished performance, but something far more intimate. Four musical giants, or soon-to-be giants, relaxing, harmonizing, and enjoying the simple act of making music together. Elvis often took the lead, his powerful voice clearly recognizable, especially on the gospel numbers like Peace in the Valley, Down by the Riverside, and Blessed Jesus, Hold My Hand. Jerry Lee Lewis's boogie-woogie piano is prominent throughout, often dueling playfully with Elvis's own piano playing or Perkins' guitar licks. Carl Perkins' distinctive guitar style can be heard, and he shares lead vocals on some tracks, including his own composition Matchbox. They sang songs by Bill Monroe, Little Cabin Home on the Hill, Chuck Berry, Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, Pat Boone, Don't Forbid Me, and many traditional hymns. The atmosphere feels like a homecoming for Elvis, reconnecting with his Sun Records roots and the Southern gospel music he adored. There's laughter, chatter, and a palpable sense of camaraderie, mixed with hints of friendly competition, particularly between Elvis and the irrepressible Jerry Lee Lewis at the piano. Sam Phillips, realizing the historical significance of having these four artists, his artists, past and present together in one room, called Bob Johnson at the Memphis Press Scimitar. Johnson's article the next day, accompanied by a now famous photograph of the four grouped around the piano, dubbed them the $1,000,000 Quartet. The name stuck perfectly, capturing the immense talent and future earning power assembled in that room. The tapes from this session weren't officially released for many years. Parts surfaced in Europe in the late 1970s, and more complete versions emerged in the 1980s and beyond, allowing the public to finally eavesdrop on this incredible moment. Listening to the recordings offers a fascinating glimpse into the shared musical DNA of these four legends. They all drew from the same wellspring of gospel, country, and blues, even as they forged their own unique paths in rock and roll and country music. This collaboration was entirely unplanned, a fortunate accident of timing and location. It wasn't about creating a hit record or putting on a show. It was about a shared love of music in the place where their careers began. Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Johnny Cash. The $1 Million Quartet session remains one of the most celebrated and mythic moments in music history, a spontaneous summit meeting of kings and future kings, captured for posterity by a rolling tape machine and the quick thinking of Sam Phillips. It stands as perhaps the ultimate example of Elvis collaborating, however informally, with fellow music legends, creating a moment greater than the sum of its already incredible parts.